Cassandra, what kind of dreams have you had? Like, you have been trained under the Kyun, Cassandra, to limit your connection to the Fade while you sleep. But that said, as much as the Kunari like to believe that it's 100% effective and it definitely fixes all the problems that dreaming comes with, it doesn't. Like, you still have dreams. You are able to... Basically, the technique they taught you is lucid dreaming. Which is, if anyone knows anything about lucid dreaming, it's not always 100% effective, and you can't... It's hard to master even if you've done it successfully before.
Right.
And your subconscious, to a certain extent, still reigns there. So, what do you dream about, Cassandra?
Mostly Parvalin and a little bit, to some extent, Saharan. Not necessarily the people there, but like just familiar scents and sounds, things that I've grown up with. So it's like comforting and also very different from Minrathous.
It is. Saharan is about as different from Minrathous as you can possibly be. Saharan is all about function, and Minrathous is all about form. Minrathous is definitely very beautiful, but it's got some pretty deep societal flaws in it. Although by that same coin, Parvalin is very functional and very, like, it is very well organized, but it also has some pretty deep cultural flaws.
Sure does. Has nothing to do with why I left or anything. It's fine.
But your dreaming tonight is particularly unpleasant. So what is an unpleasant dream for Cassandra?
Oh boy. Unpleasant dreams almost always involve Arvarad to some extent. Or some version where I was not able to get away.
Our audience does not know who Arvarad is. So tell us a little bit about Arvarad. What does he look like? And how do you know him?
The handler that I was assigned at 8 years old, a little bit older than me, the one who literally held my leash, and the one who could control what magic I could use and when and how. The collar, the guy that gave me my collar, and yeah, so basically the only person that I've interacted with after they found out that I was a mage.
Yeah. Have your dreams colored what he looks like, or has he pretty much stayed the same, or has he gotten spookier as separation has grown between you? Has he become like mythologized in your head, or do you remember him with perfect clarity?
I feel like yes, perfect clarity, but especially his eyes. Like when I turned around and looked at him and shook my head like, I'm not coming back. I made my decision. His eyes and the way they looked, they glinted in the fire when I called the fire. Yeah, definitely the eyes are the focus here. So yeah, it's gotten a little spookier.
So, your nightmare. Did you want to dream about one particular nightmare, or?
I do not have any particular nightmare, no.
Okay. You're leaving it to me? You're horrible... emotionally manipulative DM. You're leaving that up to me to be perfectly clear? I literally just told you,
like, all of her bad dreams have to do with Arvarad. Like, that's up to you what you do with.
So I want to get this, like, verbal consent. You are saying me, Tessa, who has made you cry with tabletop RPGs before, can pick your nightmare for you.
This has been recorded. You know it's being recorded.
This is being recorded, Kay.
I am letting you have the reins for this. It has, like, Arvarad, or her bad dreams are just, you never got away, or Arvarad, you're dead. Arvarad caught you.
Okay. All right. So there have been, not that you know much about it, but you've heard rumors, Cassandra, that there have been attempts for other Cerebas to escape the Kyun. And according to Arvarad and all the other Arvarads, there is a 100% failure rate, definitely all the time.
For sure.
And when they are caught and when they are recollared, there are a bunch of different punishments that are inflicted upon them. It can be their horns being cut off, their tongues being cut out. Sometimes they're blinded. Sometimes they will be crippled in some way, like they'll be hamstrung, something like that. It's all pretty bad. So I think what you're dreaming about is being caught. Like, you don't know exactly the details, but this is a dream, so the details never matter. And Arvarad has brought you back to Parvalan, and you are bound by the wrists and the ankles as he is preparing it looks like a small surgical tray out in front of you, and he says, "You should have known better than to flee, Sarabas." Do you say anything? Bearing in mind that if you say something, it's going to get worse.
No, I just glare up at him.
He has his back to you, so he does not see or acknowledge your glare. But when he does turn back around, in one hand he has a pair of pliers, and in the other hand he has a very long, thin, curved knife. And he says, "You should have known better, Sarabas." And then he approaches you, and you realize that the razor wire that had been holding your mouth shut is gone. But that's only so, it seems, he can force the pliers into your mouth and pull out your tongue. And as he is in the process of it happens in like sort of a fantasy dream state, right? Like, it hurts, but it doesn't hurt. It's happening, but it's not happening. It's terrifying, but it's nothing. As all of this is happening, you are watching through tear-blurred eyes, and there's a figure crouched in the corner of the room, just in your line of vision. They're sort of small and they're pale, but they're looking at you with a lot of empathy. A lot of empathy on their face. You don't recognize them, and their face is kind of hard to make out. This figure is looking at you like they want to help you, but they're not exactly sure what's going on or how to accomplish that.
Do I have freedom of movement at all?
Let's make this a test of willpower.
Yeah, like in my dream, like, can I move at all?
This would be willpower. Let's say this is willpower self-discipline. With a 12, Cassandra, you focus your mind in the way that the Kyun has taught you. And don't get it twisted. The Kyun has done wrong, real wrong by you. But the lucid dreaming techniques that they've taught you have come in handy, especially during bad dreams like this. And with a 12, you are able to realize that this is a dream. You remember escaping Parvalan, you remember being captured by slavers and being taken into Minrathis. And you realize that this has to be fake. And that knowing, it doesn't change the scenery around you, but it immediately dulls the sensation.
Okay.
Like, you're no longer in pain, you're no longer afraid. But the figure that is Arvarad is still stooped in front of you, still viciously attempting to carve out your tongue.
Cool. Love that. A lot.
Again, verbal consent to your maniac DM. You have no one to blame for this but yourself.
I'm not complaining, like, I knew you were going to do this, so, like, it's fine. Now that I've realized, like, oh, this is definitely a dream, like, I'm definitely going to try to break free and try to approach this new figure, and be like, what are you doing here?
Because you are a mage and because you have realized that you are in a dream, it's actually quite easy to manipulate your surroundings. Like, in the Dragon Age universe, all dreaming occurs in the Fade, which is the realm of magic. And a mage, when lucid in the Fade, is very powerful. They are able to manipulate very easily the world around them. I can imagine Cassandra deciding she doesn't want to be in this dream anymore, and the result of that want is a wave of force that knocks the figure of Arvarad back several feet. And he screams, but the scream mutates as it is being screamed, and you see him for the demon of fear that he actually is. And he twists away and vanishes in a gust of smoke, leaving just you and the figure alone in the room.
So yeah, I'm going to approach the figure and be like, have you always been watching?
The figure doesn't answer. Now that you're a little bit closer, you can see that it is a woman, you think. Or at least approximating a woman. And you also think it's an elf. She's very, very pale, very slight. She has this really long white hair that's sort of tangled all the way down her back. And she doesn't answer you, even as she stares directly at you in acknowledgement.
All right. Another spirit or demon of the Fade, then, I suppose.
It's possible. You can make a check on it, if you would like.
Yes, let's do that.
This would be cunning or magic, maybe? I guess this would... Yeah, it would be cunning arcane lore. Nope.
Wow.
No.
1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 4. Yeah, you have no idea what this creature is. They feel kind of spirity, maybe. But they don't seem to be doing any harm to you. Like, the Kyun has trained you that absolutely anything from the Fade is going... Like, it only wants to kill you. But
Right.
this thing has no malice inside of it. You can feel it.
Then I sort of, like, tilt my head a little bit, like, if you're not going to answer, why bother watching?
The figure keeps staring back up at you. Still not answering, or at least not any question that you pose it. And she says, "That took a great deal of courage." Elian,
Yeah.
you're dreaming about Bastian.
Aw.
How often do you dream about Bastian?
Ooh. In the period since he's lost him, relatively frequently, in the 6 months since he's been on the run, I don't know that he's had the luxury. Like, more of his dreams are anxiety-fueled, like running dreams and shit like that.
This particular dream, it's sort of a portfolio of having met Bastien, the brief few years that you lived with Bastien, and then, of course, the day you lost Bastien. You've had probably something resembling this dream before, like a catalog of your brief life with him.
Oh, definitely.
You recall the day you met him all those years ago in Valroyo, where you were busking in that little tavern, and him being just so charming, just unbearably charming. Just like the minute he opened his mouth, it was like he just turned up the charisma. And what were you thinking that first day you met him when he kind of leaned across the table and like grinned widely at you?
I mean, I'd spent, the better part of a set just completely pissed off because, like, he's just staring. Rude.
And he wouldn't tip you. What the hell?
I know!
But then he made up for it because he came over and he dropped
Jesus.
5 whole sovereigns into your case, which is a lot of fucking money.
Yeah. I think Elian, let's just be real. He was a silver fox. It's freaking gorgeous.
Oh yeah. Bastien was a babe.
I think Elian was definitely thinking that he was coming on a bit strong, but also he didn't mind that in the least. The bluntness of his flirtation was endearing.
And he definitely kept that up, like even after, like, you're experiencing this as the whirlwind that it is in this dream, just recounting the memories that you have shared with him. Even, like, after the first time you had slept with him, he still kept flirting with you, like, constantly. It was, like, his default setting. He didn't know how to turn it off. And, like, you tried to explain to him on multiple occasions, like, we're already fucking. Like, you don't have to keep trying to seduce me. But, like, he just kept it up. It was, like, he was bound and determined to just flirt with you as much as possible.
Oh no, Elian loves that. Like, he would not try to stop that. Are you kidding me?
Well, good, because it happens a whole lot. Like, obviously his primary interest was getting you trained up as a bard, because he definitely had the need of a bard the first time you met him. And you are swept along the first day that he takes you to the Bardic College in Valroyo, and he enrolls you there. You remember him, giving you a broad wink, like, good luck in there, champ, and like slapping you on the ass or something, and like bidding you fair travels. But then, of course, the dreams do get eventually a little bit sadder. You remember the first time that Bastien lost consciousness in his estate in Valroyo. You remember having to frantically call a servant to help him get into bed, and then sending someone else to go get a doctor. He got better, but then, he got worse again. and it was a constant ebb and flow until eventually Bastien died. And you remember in that dream when it happened, when you're standing on the other side of the bed with Bastien cold and still on the laid out before you, and Vivienne glaring icy daggers at you. And what are you feeling in that moment?
I'm feeling just numb. So upset that it is literally overwhelming me. And, I can't even get my usual snark in against Vivienne. I literally can't think of anything witty or biting to say in response to her awfulness.
And she is being awful. You can't recall exactly the words she said to you that day, but what she's saying to you now is just this constant stream of, you should have been there for him, you were never good enough to win his attention, you were only ever just a bard to him, I can't believe you'd even dare to be here in this moment, you don't deserve to see this. And as Vivienne is standing there berating you over the body of the man that both of you loved quite a bit, a voice from behind her says, I remember this. And your eyes sort of refocus, and you didn't even notice him at first, but standing behind her and just off to the side is that elf. Initially, you'd mistaken him for a servant, but now you're looking at him a little more closely, and you realize he can't possibly be a servant. He's extraordinarily, ghost white pale, with pale blonde hair sort of bundled at the back of his head, and he's looking around this decadent estate, and he says, This is the day that the Duc de Ghislaine died, right? I remember this.
This isn't... What are you talking about?
Go ahead and roll willpower self-discipline.
Okay.
Kay also rolled a 12, so it would be remiss not to give you the same. It takes you a minute. The strangeness of the comment is really what jars you out of it. You realize that, you actually have seen this before because you've experienced this before, and then it kind of just clicks in your head, oh, you're dreaming.
Yeah, I think he's confused because now he does remember that, yes, that stranger was here, and you helped me when she threatened to have me banned from the funeral. Who are you?
He laughs. I'm surprised you remembered that. He looks down at himself. He's looking down at his two hands, and he sees his left hand in particular, and he kind of laughs. He gives his left arm a shake, and suddenly it's gone. From the elbow down, he just doesn't have a left arm anymore. You're so caught up in that you don't realize the entire room freezes in, mid-motion. Vivienne is caught in mid-scream at you, and there's a bird out the window that is caught in mid-air that you can see through the curtains. And he says, I thought I introduced myself, but I don't know, it was several years ago. My name is Lannon. I'm sorry, Elian, right? I was looking for Dorian, but you must be close to him.
Yeah, you're right. It is Elian. And yes, I'm in his estate? What do you mean you're looking for him?
Well, when we have emergencies, this is usually how we contact each other. Although I guess it would be just as good to talk to you. Maybe better. He comes around the bed and he says, You're the one who saw it, right? The Crimson Valasline?
How do you know about that?
Dorian wrote to me. Did he not?
Oh!
He didn't warn you, did he? He
No.
didn't tell you. Okay, hi again. Let me start over. You're probably extremely confused. He waves. Hi, I'm Lannon. I'm a Somniari, a dreamer. I can go into the dreams of other people. He says, I usually do it when there's some emergency that would take too long to get across in a message, or something that we can't tell each other about through our sending crystal. He says, but I came here tonight because I need to see the Valasline that you saw. Dorian couldn't describe it. Dorian wasn't there. He says, but you saw it, right? The elf with the red markings on their chin.
Yeah. Yep. We saw more than one elf with the markings.
He says, can you show me?
Maybe?
He extends his one hand and he says, this is your dream. He says, show me. And go ahead and roll self-discipline again.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
Impressive. Maybe it's his insistence that this is his cavalier insistence that you can do it, or maybe it's just a little spark of something in your own, but you are quickly able to transport the both of you into the wreckage of that burned out building, the one that you investigated that first night in Minrathis. And you are all of a sudden surrounded by Sabre and Leander and Cassandra, and you are crouched over the body of the elf with the note that you found in the pocket. And Leander and all your friends are all frozen, just like Vivienne was frozen, in sort of mid-motion. And Lannon crouches down next to you and investigates the body. And he says, "This is it?"
Yeah, I think Elian is just really startled that worked. Like, I don't think he's ever really had conscious control over his dreams before. It's not something that he is used to.
Lannon doesn't seem particularly off-put by it. He either he does this all the time, or he was helping you somehow. You're still not 100% sure which it is. He says, "The Fade isn't an accurate representation, you understand. It's not a direct record of history in the same way that a history textbook isn't a direct record of history. There's always some flaws, some bias in the telling," he says, "but this is pretty good." And he puts his hand, his fingertip on the chin of the mostly charred corpse, and he says, "I recognize this."
You do?
He says, "Yes, we've been hunting them down for a while." He stands up looking sort of fidgety, sort of nervous. He says, "Listen, I know it can be difficult to remember your dreams, but I need you to relay a message to Dorian."
I'll try.
He says, "These markings," he says, looking back down at the elf, he still has his fingers on their chin. He says, "They belong to the disciples of the Forgotten Ones, and I think they might be part of the Helathen." He says, "The Forgotten Ones, well, they're not quite the Dalish gods. In our histories, they were opposed to the gods, and both of them were cast out many thousands of years ago before the fall of Arlathan, but I am sure that this is it." And he says, "And tell him, Vantarala, I've written all I can remember about Vantarala and the names that you gave me. Listen," he looks really agitated, and he turns to you. He's still, like, sitting on his knees, and he says, "Tell him that if Solus," and he sort of flinches at the name, "if Solus is here, if he's in Minrathis, you're all in very grave danger. Don't trust him. He seems affable, and he seems reasonable, and many of his positions are sound, but you do not share the same goals with him." He says he will dress up ideas of freedom and rebuilding the past into something that's truly monstrous. Never forget that he wants to destroy this world. And he says, "Tell Dorian that when Leliana comes north, she's going to be bringing reinforcements for the Lucerni. Tell him that I miss him and to be careful, and that..." He stops a minute and he says, "Tell him not to worry about me. He will anyway, but tell him regardless." Sabre, you are having a bad dream.
Mm-hmm.
"What are your bad dreams about?" she asked, knowing full well the answer already.
I think I'm going to I actually have a full thing for this.
Oh, well, by all means. Paint me a word picture, Sensei.
Absolutely. I think it's always a similar dream, right? And we all know what it is.
Well, the viewers don't.
It starts out really, really peacefully. So he's in the forest and he's hunting with his brother. And they're hunting in companionable silence. It's sort of that, when you've got really good family, you don't even need to talk. And so they're just, like, walking beside each other. And suddenly, I hear a noise. And I turn around, and where Ren was, there's a black cloud. And it disappears. And I look frantically. And I'm running through the forest screaming his name. I'm shouting, "Ren! Ren, where are you?" I'm running and I'm scrambling till I suddenly stumble into the camp. which comes out of nowhere. And the only thing that's in there is Meryl's tent, and it's surrounded by this, like, black swirling energy. And I don't know what's going on, so I walk towards it, and when I enter it, I just see the mirror and nothing else. And I see, as I step closer, my brother's in the mirror, and he's screaming to be let out.
Wow, metaphors.
Shit.
So I go forward, and I see myself in the mirror suddenly, but I have Meryl's knife. And as I watch, this version of myself slits my brother's throat.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Jesus.
Shit, son, that's dark.
Wow.
And as I scream and like just like clawing the mirror, trying to let myself out and like trying to like see something happen, the version of myself stops and it looks up at me and it smiles and drops the knife and walks away. And then I wake up. That's always the dream. It doesn't have to be.
Wow.
Is that a reoccurring dream, like one you have regularly?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't want to change anything about that. I love that. I will, however, tack onto it just a little.
Mm-hmm.
You are at the part where you stumble backwards out of the tent, and you know this is the part where you usually wake up. But as you are stumbling backward, you're caught with two hands on your shoulders, and it prevents you from waking up, which in this case turns out to be a bad thing because you've never gotten this far in the dream, and when you stumble backwards out of the tent, you're surrounded by all the corpses of your dead clan. They're all sort of scattered around you in this huge circle. And the hands on your shoulders are sort of bracing you, both to like keep you from walking any further and also to hold you up. And there's a voice that you don't recognize from behind you that says, "Who did this?"
I turn around frantically.
Standing in front of you is a very, very tall elf. His face is unmarked. He's wearing this very intricate set of leather and silk robes that are bound at one shoulder. And he also has a sword on one hip. And he's looking around at this massacre, and he looks just appalled. Like, he looks absolutely disgusted by what he's seeing. And he turns back down to you and he says, "Who did this?"
I look at him, and so by the way, in this dream, I think it's 15-year-old me.
Of course.
So I'm still a baby, and I look at him and I go, I think it might have been me.
What makes you say that? He looks down and he looks at the knife in your hand and he says, "This knife that you bear, there's not a mark on anyone here." And he like gestures to the corpses, and indeed you can see none of them have any wounds on them. They're all desiccated and pale, like they've been chewed up from the inside by something, but none of them have any knife wounds.
I think I like look down, like it's almost like a surprise that I had the knife in my hand, and I drop it. And I'm sort of starting to come back, like some part of me is starting to realize that this is like not... This isn't real. This isn't what happened, and this is different than what normally happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm looking at it and I go, wait, this isn't right. This isn't... Meryl did this. I didn't do this.
He leans down and he says, "Who's Meryl?"
"The witch that killed my entire clan."
And in his eyes is reflected the same anger that you feel when you say her name and when you remember what she did. And he says, "Where can we find her, this Meryl?"
"If I knew, she wouldn't be around to tell anyone."
He leans down and he picks the knife up off the ground and he says, "I'll help you find her."
"You will? How?"
He nods and he places the blade of the knife to his palm and he says, "I have my ways." And he cuts his palm open then and he hands you the knife to do the same and he says, "A pact then, as in the ancient times. I require no oath in return from you. I will help you find the witch that did this."
Oh, in a heartbeat, I slash my palm open.
Oh, God.
He grips your hand and he says, "Together we'll find her." He says, "Together we will rip her down and make her pay for what she did."
So be it.
And then you wake up.
That's, by the way, the best dream that Sabray's had in years.
Cassandra, somewhere someone is an idiot making deals with demons. Where is this?
Like, I don't know a lot of things, but I know you don't make deals with things in your dreams.
Babies, honestly. All y'all have never had your clan killed entirely, and it shows.
Oh, man.
So good morning.
Yep, good morning.
Does anyone want to do or say anything to anyone in particular?
Because, like, Cassandra definitely wants, like, some tea. Maybe, like, this in combination with you were drunk last night, too. Like, maybe I shouldn't drink anymore. Drinking and dreaming, not a good idea.
Based on her experience of one time.
Right, exactly. She's like, that was bad.
I think Elian wakes up with those, fleeting moments of knowing you were dreaming, knowing there was something important about that dream, and oh, fuck, where is a notebook when you need one?
I can picture Elliot, scrambling off the bed, paper! I need paper!
Yes. 100%, because he's that was very important. That was the most lucid dream he's ever had. He knows this is important, and oh god, it's all going away as he thinks.
Yeah, it's not hard to find a sheaf of parchment paper. There's a desk by the window, and you the first drawer you open is yes, there's some paper, and then you start, I imagine, frantically scribbling out everything that you can remember.
Oh yes, 100%.
What about you, Cassandra? What are you doing? Getting
some tea and definitely trying to go through, like you said, it's still ingrained in me, these techniques. It's calm yourself, don't let the emotion overtake, don't let your magic get out of hand.
So you head downstairs first, apparently. I'll get to you, Sabri. Don't
okay.
Put a pin in that one.
Okay.
You head downstairs, and as you come down the steps, you hear this light trilling sort of Disney princess singing from the kitchen. And she says, Dorian, is that you? I'm making the tea.
I'm afraid it's not Dorian.
You make it into the kitchen where you see Mayveris turn around and she smiles brightly. Oh, hello, darling. How's your hangover? I'll make you some elf fruit tea.
That sounds lovely.
I'll just add a little bit of elf fruit, and you can see her opening up a jar of dried herbs, crushing them in a pestle, and she says, other than that, how did you sleep?
Sleep. I guess I was sleeping and dreaming.
Well, don't keep us in suspense, darling. She flits over to you, and it's everywhere she walks, she's floating. She has these gravity-defying ringlets of blonde hair, and her dresses are always so light and bouncy and flouncy. And she glides right up to you, and she hands you this perfectly hot cup of tea with this dazzling smile, and she says, drink up, it'll make you feel better.
I definitely do not hesitate and like to drink it whoo.
Yeah, the elf fruit, it makes it taste kind of bitter, but also you can't deny it's a good hangover cure.
Mm-hmm. And then I spend a little bit of time just staring into my cup and then looking up at her and
Looking up at Mayveris?
You're right, I'm 7 feet tall, looking down at her. Oh yes, first I should thank you again for the collar thing. That was incredible.
Oh, it was nothing more than the absolute minimum of mercy, my darling. And she flits back into the kitchen to continue making the tea.
And then I sort of just talk to, it feels like I'm talking to the cup rather than to Mayveris. It's been a while since I dreamt and remembered. Demons of fear, that's new.
So how it went before is whenever you had a dream with Arvarad, you would have to immediately tell him and be I was confronted by a demon in the Fade. And then he would have to do this extensive test to make sure that you weren't possessed by it. That was the level of paranoia.
Right.
Among the Kunari about mages and their dreams. And Mayveris' reaction is about as polar opposite as it could possibly be. You say, oh, there was a demon of fear in the Fade, and she says, oh, yes, and those little bastards. We all deal with them sometimes, darling. Don't let it eat at you.
And that reaction just, completely startles me, and you're not afraid I'm possessed?
She says, darling, if I had a nickel for every time I came across a demon of fear in the Fade, well, I'd probably be about as rich as I am now, but that's beside the point. She says, it happens to every mage, darling. And she, flits back over and she, forces you, as much as she can, being 2 feet shorter than you, to, sit down at the table. And then she heads back into the kitchen. She says, you didn't let it possess you?
No.
then what's the problem? And she goes back to making breakfast.
Oh boy, that's adorable. It definitely is something, like, for me to process, like, the question, so what's the problem? Like, everything I've been taught, everything I've ever known. Like, how does one answer that question?
Yeah, she doesn't seem particularly to care whether or not you have an answer. She's just sitting there making breakfast. She's cooking up something that smells real good. Sabrae!
Yes.
You wake up. What do you do?
Oh god. I haven't quite figured out if it was actually a dream or not. It was a weird dream. I've never had a good dream since I was, like, 15. I'm starting to think that maybe this has something to do with what Dorian and I talked about. So I'm gonna go find Dorian.
Dorian, unlike Mayveris, who is on Disney princess setting 24 hours a day, Dorian drags himself, like, you come down the hallway and he's, like, dragging himself out of his bedroom looking like a pile of warmed over shit. And he, like, holds up a hand to you as you approach him. He's like, at least let me get some tea into me. And he, like, shuffles past you.
I trail after him awkwardly.
He says, oh, I did not sleep at all.
Did you have weird dreams?
What? I'm a mage. I always have weird dreams.
I don't know what that means.
Well, let's both be grateful that you'll never have to.
I have dreams about killing my brother.
Oh, wow, that's what you're gonna open with.
He says, and a good morning to you too, Sabrae.
I thought he said he wanted his tea first. You monster.
He hasn't even made it downstairs, you filthy animal.
I love it. Like, so anyway, I killed my brother, Dorian. Oh, dear maker, help me.
I think at, like, his puzzled look, I just look, oh, that's normal. That part's very normal. What's not normal is that there was another elf in my dream who promised to avenge my clan.
Okay, he says, like, he looks so fucking tired, and he, like, trudges into the dining room, and Mayveris is like, good morning, Dorian! And he's like, oh, stop talking so loudly. And he says, I don't know what you want me to tell you, Sabrae, you're not a mage, it didn't possess you, you're fine.
I look suddenly very alarmed. Is that a thing that happens?
Well, very rarely, but yes, it can happen. If demons make a tempting enough offer to a mage, and it is always mages, they're not interested in possessing anyone else. We're the only ones who can affect the real world, you see. And he yawns and he says, Mayveris, please, I need some tea. And she's like, it's not done. Sit down. I'll bring you a cup.
Just maybe, what does Landon Llewellyn look like? Just a general description.
He yawns and he says, he's an elf.
That's not, I'm an elf.
I don't know, he's short, he's blonde, he's got this staff that looks like two carved snakes twining around each other.
Does any of this match up with my dream at all?
Not in the least.
Oh, fuck. Okay, I look at him and I go, well, I guess it wasn't that then. And I get up and walk away.
Jeez. Are you going to stay for breakfast?
No.
Mayveris says, actually, I think you are.
Oh, well, I turned, what?
She says, oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't a request. Sit down.
I love her.
No one's ever talked to me like that before, so I do it. I think I'm, like, at least, like, I scale so much, no one ever tells me. So I just sort of sit down, stunned.
And she says, there, you'll feel much better after you've had a nice breakfast. And she, like, piles your plate full of breakfast and fills your cup with tea and then flits around and does the same for Cassandra.
I just don't know what to do. I think I'm staring. I look at Cassandra like I'm trying to, like, get help. Like, I have, like, a pleading look in my eyes. Like, what?
I'm looking at you like, man, you're not a mage and you had a dream. Like,
People have dreams, Cassandra.
She fills Dorian's cup, and before she's even, like, moved the pot away, Dorian's like, oh god, and he's, like, drinking it all down.
One shots the whole mug.
Elian, how long does it take you to finish writing?
Probably a couple minutes. Like, I hear the commotion as Dorian and Sabrae are headed down the stairs. I hear, like, just his, like, oh god reaction to whatever Sabrae just said. I'm like, oh no, I gotta finish this. Probably hear him just, like, thudding down the stairs a few minutes later. And
as soon as you come out of your room, you almost, not quite, but almost bump into Leander, who definitely avoids you, and he says, good morning.
Hi! I have to go find Dorian.
He will be downstairs, and he heads off down the hallway.
Okay. Just, like, zoop past him.
Leander is incapable of being, like, surprised by anything, so he just sort of lets you pass. You make it downstairs, Leander, a couple steps behind you. You have a giant ream of parchments in your hand, or at least, like, a couple sheets of parchment.
100% haven't changed out of night clothes, like, hair is still way crazy. It's not a good look.
Yeah, and I think Dorian is the first to comment on that. It's like, wild night last night, huh? I say it because you look like you either, like, got beaten up or had sex last night, so I'm just trying to...
You do look very bad.
Neither. But I have a message for you.
He says, oh, that's normal. Sure, yeah, go ahead.
No. So, Lannan said that...
He immediately stands up. Lannan? He visited you?
Uh-huh.
He immediately stalks over and he grabs the parchment out of your hand.
Alien just lets him and just... It's like, okay, this... Alright, and just goes and gets a cup of tea just to get something going on.
Mayveris, like, sits you down very deliberately in the chair, and she says, you're all going to have normal eating habits because none of you seem to be capable of them on your own, so far.
Excuse me?
She pats your hair, and she says, you're just a little frazzled. It's okay. I understand you've been on the run for several weeks. Just sit down, I'll pour you some tea. And she, like, serves you food and pours you a cup of tea.
I think I'm glaring resentfully at Mayveris. Like, it just, like, slowly is dawning on me that this is horrifying. I'm gonna lean over conversationally to Elian and be like, did you make a blood oath in your dream last night?
What? No!
That's a no. Okay, never mind. Don't worry about it.
No, I'm extremely worried about it! What the fuck?
I go back to eating my food.
I drop my fork, I'm like, a what?
You know, a blood oath.
I'm staring at you like you have two heads.
Have you never made a... Oh, God, city folk.
Yeah, this is just a normal thing for us, Dalish. Just constantly making blood oaths with spirits in our dreams. Fucking Shemlin, am I right?
Why would you make a blood oath in your dreams?
Why wouldn't you make a blood oath in your dream?
After he's read all of your notes, Elian, and he says, oh, well, it's good to know that Lannan is at least doing well. And, you know, he has something in the letter that he's going to send back. And then he sits down and he says, wait, I'm sorry, what?
What?
I heard something about a blood oath.
I just point at Sabray.
Do you not know what a blood oath is either?
He says, no, you're not getting out of this. What the hell are you talking about?
I was just asking Elian if he made a blood oath in his dream last night. Just wondering if there was a common theme.
You made a blood oath in your dream?
Yeah.
Are you an idiot?
What?
Are you an idiot? Dorian repeats, like slower, just in case you missed it.
I look very offended.
The Dalish, they have mages. Did none of them ever warn you what dreams are?
They're just random brain somethings.
No, that's not at all what they are. And now that you're awake, let's have you roll cunning arcane lore.
That's gonna end very poorly for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's literally all you know about, they just, you know, they're stories your brain tells you.
It's just like, it's like whenever your leader gathers around and tells you a good story at camp, except for at night in your head.
Dorian says, no, that's not at all what a dream is. And Dorian says, okay, a very abridged version of basic magical theory then, I guess.
Oh, no, thank you.
He says, no,
not
you're
optional.
Gonna sit here and listen to it. This is not a request. You may have made a deal with a demon.
You said I couldn't have demons in my dream.
Well, you know what? That was before you mentioned you made a blood oath in your... Listen, okay. This world, the waking world, exists as a reflection of the Fade, which is the realm of magic and demons, and they are separated by the veil. When you dream, your spirit briefly leaves your body and goes through the veil and into the Fade, where your emotions and your memories shape a story around you that you can or can't manipulate depending upon how lucid you are and whether or not you're a mage. There's a whole bunch of different factors in it. And he says the stuff that happens in the Fade is real. It's not like real as in like physically tangible, but it happens. It just happens in the Fade.
I'm looking more and more horrified. like I already don't sleep well, but now I'm gonna sleep extra not well.
Did your keeper really never explain this to you? This is like Magic 101.
I don't do magic. Do I look like someone who does magic? I like hunting.
Well, yes, but I've heard like stories and legends about the magic that the keepers possess. Like, they're some of the most talented mages in the world, and they just never told you. Be honest, you weren't listening.
Out of character. They definitely explained it, right?
No, they absolutely did. Yeah,
okay, right. Excellent. Well, the good news is my keeper's dead, so no one actually knows. So I'm gonna straight up bald-faced lie and be like, "Nope, not a thing we ever talked about."
Dorian says, "Okay, fine. The point is, if you spoke with a being in the Fade and made a blood pact with it, that blood pact really happened. What was... Oh, please don't tell me that he held you to something. Did he say anything like, let me in? Or like, just, allow me into your world? Something along that line?"
No, it was a very polite blood pact.
A what?
They promised to help me with that thing I told you about. I'm, like, looking around, like, under my breath, I'm saying it.
Dorian says, what, with Meryl? Like, oh, would you just come off it with the brooding bit? This is important. You could be possessed.
I don't even know. Yes, they promised to help me with Meryl. They promised to help me find Meryl, and they said they wouldn't ask anything in return.
They wouldn't ask anything in return. Like, Dorian looks absolutely, like, he does not buy that for a second. He's like, they didn't ask anything. They always ask for something.
They said there was no oath required from me.
He narrows his eyes and is like, well, what a very accommodating demon.
It couldn't have been a demon, it was an elf.
Do you not understand what demons are either? Do we have to go into Demonology 101?
I 100% don't know what demons are. I have a -1 in all magic-related things.
It's just like, wow, he's an idiot.
Yes.
Dorian says, like the Fade, that demons are immutable. They can change their form. They can look like anything. There are various classifications of demons. There are demons of desire and fear and terror and there's a whole bunch of them. And it sounds like this one may have been a spirit of vengeance or something of that ilk, especially if he was going to help you track down the woman who murdered your entire clan.
I mean, if he's going to help with nothing in return, I'm not going to turn down that offer.
Okay.
What's the worst thing that could happen? I'm looking around in genuine bafflement.
You could be possessed. That is the worst thing that could happen.
I thought that only happened to mages. I'm so confused.
Do you forget that we apparently did magic somehow, even though we're not mages?
I didn't do magic.
You did.
You did.
No, I didn't.
Both of you did, yes, I saw it.
That was something else. Probably
No.
one of you two. It was not me. I don't do magic.
Very, very abruptly, as you are all arguing this, Leander, who is sitting next to you, Sabre, abruptly punches you in the side of the head. Just right in the side of the head.
Ow!
Excellent, thank you, Leander.
And just perfectly calmly, he says, there, he's not possessed.
How does that prove anything? I say, getting off the ground. I'm reaching for my weapon. I literally, my sword is halfway out of its fucking scabbard.
Leander, of course, is incapable of fear, and he says, any person possessed by a spirit will automatically react when their life is threatened. Anyone who approaches them with hostility will incite an immediate magical response.
I'm gonna approach you with hostility.
Leander says, you're certainly welcome to try.
Oh, man. I, stare him down, and then I get up and walk to the other side of the table and sit down, deliberately.
Elliot's so glad he doesn't have to say there's no bloodshed at the table!
But I take my knife out and play with it pointedly. Can it please be that he punched me in the eye and I'm gonna have a really good shiner?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
So as you're sitting there playing with your knife trying to look menacing, Leander's like, is this flirting? Is that what you're doing with me right now?
I dropped my knife.
Because I feel I should warn you, I'm incapable of feelings of romance.
I don't, no, what? No, why would you,
Dorian says, well, he's not wrong. I mean, any creature that's been possessed will automatically react to it. It's not the demon inside of them doesn't give them a choice, you understand. They have to react violently when they feel their life is threatened. Usually the demon manifests in some way. There's a burst of magic or something along that line. And Mayvera says, yes, but it was still very rude for you to hit someone at the table. At the table, Leander. And Leander says, my apologies. Just completely flat.
I'm just glaring at everybody at the table. very, very silently. Like, I told you I wasn't obsessed.
Hey friends, Tessa here. If you're desperate to hear the next episode, chances are good that you can by joining our Discord server. We post links to all episodes and pre-release, and you can even chat with us and listen live as we record. Join us by going to bit.ly/cfcdiscord. For more information on the show, character biographies, and links to social media, head to our website, critfail.club or critfailclub.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. Crit Fail Club does not advertise at all, so if you like what you hear, tell a friend who might also like it, make a post on social media about it, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Full episodes are available on our YouTube channel, bit.ly/cfcchannel, or wherever you get your podcasts.